Yo! Welcome to another episode of Gaming with Mr. C. Guys, today we're going to get UFC 4 into the armbar and get it to tap out in our official review of EA Sports UFC 4.
Gaming with Mr. C. Gaming with Mr. C. Gaming with Mr. C. Gaming with Mr. C.
Guys, we're going to go ahead and start off with the career mode. The meat and potatoes, the heart and the soul, the old chest bumper of UFC 4. And apparently EA Sports felt the same way because as soon as you load the game, it kicks you right off in the career mode, which many sports games do these days. So you actually have Coach Davis, who actually starts it off with saying, hey, we're just not gonna find this kid who has this great talent. No, he saw you and he saw the heart and the soul, the heart of a champion, as he puts it. So he takes you under his tutelage and he actually starts to train you. And these trainings are actually kind of tutorials. They break down how to strike, how to grapple, with each one of them leading into a match right afterwards, which kind of allows you to hone your skills. And I thought it was a nice way to kind of set off the story and the tutorial, kind of hide it in there. But ultimately, this is the story as Coach Davis trains you throughout your career and until you become a champion, really.
From time to time. Great fights, never know if you're going to see something special. Right, so yeah, this kid caught my eye because his eye was all busted up and bruised. Well, it was a total mismatch. It was obvious that the opponent was way more experienced. This kid took a beating for 2 rounds. Okay, probably both 10-8s. They could have stopped the fight easy, but the bell sounds to start the 3rd round. And this kid, he's still coming forward. He's still fighting, as if he thought that maybe he had a chance. There was no chance.
So guys, in this career mode, it does allow you to create your own fighter, which is kind of allows you to put yourself into the career mode, as most sports games do now with the career mode. NBA's done it for a while, Live and Madden. So it's pretty cool. So you actually kind of get to be the person. And as you can see about my creative fighter, I mean, it looks just like me from the 8-pack all the way to the white beard. No, but seriously, I was actually very impressed by the amount of options you have. I mean, obviously, you do have the white beard, which is just like my real white beard. But also, something that I tried to do is try to create it to be as much like me as possible. Even to the placement of my tattoos that I have on my body. And I even tried, some of them I was able to have tattoo for tattoo. I have a cross, I have a Chinese symbol. Some of them, the Mario wasn't in there, but I got it to be as close as possible. So, kind of actually, add that little extra element into the game to make me feel like if I actually went under Coach Davis's wing, that you might be fighting with Mr. C right now instead of gaming with Mr. C. It's just that little extra level of immersion. The actual creative fighter I thought was actually pretty in depth, and there's a lot of options there, as you could see me scrolling through them. Alright guys, so from there, once you've kind of built your fighter, you've gone through the tutorial, you actually get to start off each week by choosing a fight. In the beginning, you can skip 1 fight, and then you have to take the next one. You do upgrade that to 2. But I always just took the first fight. From there, it does allow you to pick how many options you want to train, how many weeks you want to train, 1 to 5 weeks. In the beginning, I always took 5 because this is where the game really takes off for me. You have it each week, you have 100 points to spend on either sparring, training with a partner, scouting, or promotions. Now, the sparring, there's different aspects to it. You might be working on your striking, jiu-jitsu, or the heavy bag. And when you do that, depending on each time, there's different challenges. And depending on how well you do in those, you can actually get star points to use towards upgrading your power, your kick accuracy, your kicking power, your health, your stamina, your perks. So this is really where you get to upgrade your character or your fighter's skill set by doing these. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, you can actually get injured in these. So for instance, there was one time I was doing a sparring, just a striking challenge, and the dude just flat out laid me out. I was out cold, bro. I was just like sleeping with Mr. C up in here. I got a concussion. So the next week I actually had to spend money and or time or points healing myself so I didn't have to go into this fight kind of bruised up. So I thought that was kind of cool. Training with the partner, kind of the same concept. The scouting, you actually have different skill sets. Like, you could see who you're fighting, but you don't know his rank on 1 to 5. You don't know his tendencies. You don't know his moves. But you can spend these points each week on scouting the guy. So you kind of have a better understanding of what you're getting into. Very realistic. I enjoyed it. And then you have promotions. Under promotions, there's a lot of things. You can social media tweet. You can interact with people. Get people hyped up for the fight so you can gain more fans because more people are watching it. You can, sign endorsements with, like, Ray's Barbecue Shack and, make media presence there. You actually can fight people you fought with before. You can actually visit them, which allows you to unlock new moves as well. So a lot of great options here. And I actually thought this was pretty cool because in the past, with even like UFC or Fight Night, you kind of get bored of doing this because it's the same thing over and over. But I felt like there was enough options that week to week, the first week, I was typically trying to scout my guy, spend some points on promotion. The second week, I was trying to finish scouting my guy and start doing some sparring because I didn't want to do it on week 4 where I would get injured. So there's a strategy to it. Now, there's times as I got further in my career that I would just go week to week or just, hey, this time I just want to fight. I'm going to go 1 week training. I'm cocky now. I'm just going to go in there and just knock this dude out. So you do have that option and that feel, different options to kind of feel out how you want to play the game week to week. And some of the stronger opponents, you obviously want more time to do that. So guys, from there, you pretty much you're at the fight. From the beginning to the UFC to the champion, which I believe you started off in the WFA. It was about 12 to 13 fights for me before I became champion. And then at that point, it was just all about building my legacy. Graphically, I thought the game was really good looking. I didn't think it was ugly by any means. I played UFC 3 right after this because I just kind of wanted to relive that because it had been a while. Graphically, UFC 4 is definitely better. I feel like it just has that overall better presentation and that feel like I was watching a UFC event. Whereas UFC 3, I think, had better lighting, so kind of the character models seemed like they looked better, but the overall presentation, experience, the crowd, and everything else just seemed a little bit more realistic in UFC 4. So I would definitely take UFC's 4 overall package over UFC 3. The sound was on point. Coach Davis's actor was scanned in. The lip syncing, voice acting was good. Commentary is good. I never heard Joe Rogan in it, where I'm pretty positive he was in 3. That was a little different. But the crowd, they acted and reacted to everything going on screen. And you can really hear when you smash somebody's face. And that's really what matters, right? Like a good old-fashioned face smash? Come on, guys. I like to smash the face. All in all, though, guys, I really did enjoy UFC's 4's campaign or career, if you will. It just felt a lot more in-depth. I had a lot more choice. It felt like I was the person. And in UFC 3, it just felt a little manufactured at times. The menus were real clunky. And in this one, they do still have the social media aspect. Matter of fact, after the fight, you have the presentation like you're watching it on ESPN, and you have the playback. But even after that, while it's loading, you'll have like social media people who were in the crowd who took photos at different areas and videos of the fight, which was cool. And then some people will hit you up on social media. You can respond, and you can kind of create new feuds with fighters and stuff. So there's a lot of cool choices there. Ultimately, though, I just don't know that there was still enough here, where I would get sick of doing some of the side stuff in the Fight Night in UFC 3. I was still enjoying it, 13, 14 matches in, but around match 20, 21, I was kind of getting a little tired of it. And ultimately, I just don't know that that would be worth that $60 price tag. So that brings us into the other modes, and what are they? So guys, those other modes that you have your normal online mode. So if you like to go online and fight with people, it's a lot of fun. It's responsive. I don't really have any lag issues or anything like that. So then we actually get into the offline modes, where you have your normal fight mode, where you just go in there, pick a character, fighter, and fight it out. Normal style UFC match. There's about 230-ish fighters, which was insane. I was like, at first when I was going down the list, I was like, okay, CM Punk, Conor McGregor, the normal dudes that people who don't love UFC would know. I was like, oh, this is about 30. And I hit the old right bumper, and I was like, oh, weight classes. Forgot about those weight classes. There's a lot of people in this. Bruce Lee was apparently a DLC character, which I guess is cool. I don't know that Bruce Lee would be a fan of MMA, but I don't know that he would not be a fan of MMA. But he did have that Bruce Lee game on the original Xbox, and that sure was something, wasn't it? But we're not here to talk about Bruce Lee. We're here to talk about UFC. Another one of the fight modes was called Stand and Bang, which is no submissions. It's all basically strikes, and it's your regular UFC format, except for you just didn't get to do submission. From there, you had the knockout mode, which was in 3. I don't recall if it was in 2, but it was definitely in 3. And this is more of like a Mortal Kombat Street Fighter. You have 3 rounds, best of 3 rounds, wins. Again, no grappling, but you actually have a health meter that goes all the way down where you knock out the guy. This one was a little bit more interesting because it had some more extreme arenas, and it took away the commentary, and it was just pure like that, metal Mortal Kombat type music, and it was like round 1, which was interesting. And then you had a custom fight where you can kind of make your own mode. So from there you had your training mode, your training manual mode, where you can kind of go in there and hone your skills. You had a create a tournament, and then you had to create an event, which I thought was interesting because it reminded me that of WWE's Universe mode, where you could just really go in there and create a card from start to finish, and then live out that card or watch that card. I thought it was cool, a nice little feature. It wasn't as in-depth as that of the Universe mode, where you're creating like an entire month schedule with like, WWE Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and create your own brand and stuff. But it was a cool addition. It was fun that it was there. So ultimately, I mean, when you get to the fighting, I don't really think that there was a lot of differences in the fighting from the previous years, except for I think that the grappling and ground game was a little bit easier in this one than it was in the past. But I don't necessarily know that was a good thing. I feel like they haven't found that balance yet of, hey, I want to make it a little challenging to do these grapples and the groundwork and submissions, but I also don't want to be so complex that it turns people off. It's kind of like even in wrestling games where, the WWE Warzone and Attitude Era, where it was like up, down, left, A, B, boom, 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 just to do a super kick, to where on SmackDown, it's just you press Y. They got to find that balance. For me, the Aki 64 versions, obviously, are the best because it was like hold A, tap A. It was simple enough, but not too easy, not too hard. It was just kind of in that middle ground. I don't know that they've quite found that yet in UFC games, because I even think back to the Dreamcast where it was a lot harder to do, to the PS2 era, to now where I think it's getting a little too simple. However, there's still some strategy to it. I had matches which is the best part about UFC, right? Some matches you can win in 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 7 seconds, and some go the distance, but more rarely. So overall, I do think that the fighting the actual mechanics of the fighting is done very well, and I feel like they're still kind of fine tuning that year to year, which is nice. I think this year they kind of focused more on the presentation, which I personally appreciated because I never had a huge issue with the fighting. It was more that the presentation needed some work. So guys, for my final thoughts on UFC 4, ultimately I enjoyed the game. I thought it was a solid game. It's by far my favorite UFC game. I just don't know that it had enough to go the distance. I don't know if it was worth that $60. $30? Absolutely. If you're big into UFC and the fighting games, this is probably going to be all for you all day long, no complaints. Because technically, I think it was a really good game. The only issues I had is, I think the controls are still a little clunky at times, where it's like that, why am I throwing a brick as a punch? And I think they need to really fine-tune the difficulty of the submission grappling, where it's not too hard, not too easy. But from, again, a technical standpoint, it was a solid game. And so for that, I give it an 8.25 out of 10.
Gaming with Mr. C. Gaming with Mr. C. Gaming with Mr. C. Gaming with Mr. C.